Boker Tov and welcome. Today we're going to talk about why parenting is better early than late. We're continuing our Parenting for Mothers Only series, and my name is Ann Elliott. I'm the creator and founder of Homeschoolingtorah.com. We're going to go to the book of Proverbs today to make a case that we should start parenting our children when they're young and not when they're old. Now, I want to just introduce this a little bit. I have seen a lot of parents who have the impression that the first couple years of life, maybe from infancy all the way up to 2 or 3, maybe even 4 years old, while the child is nursing and they're small, that they're not capable of ever doing anything wrong. And it's the time to only be gentle and kind with them. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be gentle and kind, but that you should never discipline them or tell them no, don't place restrictions on them, only let them be creative and explore. The only problem with that is that Jehovah, when he created our world and he placed Adam and Eve into the garden, he placed them in a wonderful environment. Yes, he did, and they could explore to their heart's content, but there was an edge to it and a protection, and it was only after they sinned, because he only gave them one command. I hope you can remember that. He gave them one command, and when they broke that command, they lost that protection, and they were sent out. Now they really could roam and explore. They had the whole world, but they didn't have the protection that they had before. And I want to show you from the book of Proverbs how God advises us to start when our children are very young, because once you start on a path, once you aim in a direction, it's very easy to get off track, and then you have to pull them back in. I mean, it's like a child with handwriting. Okay, let's say my child is learning to hold a pen, and they begin like this, but then later, now let's say they begin like this, and I don't stop them, and they're going to write like this. I mean, yes, they could go their whole life writing like this, but it's going to kind of look a little funny, and I think there's going to be some things that they're hindered in, that they can't do as well because they never learned to have a proper thing. Now, I have children that have this problem too. I have trouble not teaching my children everything that they should learn, and then you have habits to break and things to go back and fix. They have learned to maybe be disrespectful or to throw temper tantrums or to touch things they shouldn't touch. And then you rein them in, you take away their freedoms, and you say, no, you can't. Now you put them inside the Garden of Eden after they've had the whole world to explore. Now they're going to probably fuss a little because they've tasted of that tree. They've tasted of the knowledge of good and evil, and they want more. And you're going to have a very difficult time bringing them back. So my advice to you, if it's not too late, is to start your children out correctly. Start the way you aim to go. So let's look at the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 4, verses 3 and 4. This is Solomon, and I'm gonna go back up to verse 1. He said, "Listen, my sons, to a father's instruction. Pay attention and gain understanding. I give you sound learning, so do not forsake my teaching. When I was a boy in my father's house, still tender and an only child of my mother, he taught me and said, lay hold of my words with all your heart. Keep my commands and you will live." Now catch on. This is Solomon talking about when he was little. So his father was David and his mother was Bathsheba. So when he was a boy in his father's house, still tender and an only child of my mother. That means when he was really little. The New King James translates it, the only one in the sight of my mother. When he was the little one, there wasn't another one after him to come and distract her. All of us were in that position once, but I'm telling you, that's quite young. My children average 1.5 to 2 to 2.5 years apart. One of them is 3 years apart, so you've got only a very short amount of time when your child is the only one in your sight and is tender. And that is when David started to teach Solomon and said, let your heart retain my words and keep my commands and live. Now let's look down at chapter 4, verses 10 and 11. It says, "Hear, my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of your life will be many. I have taught you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in right paths." So, it's a teaching and a leading. I'm not saying that when they're very little, is when we, make them scream all the time. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this is when you teach them from the very beginning. Think through their day, be intentional about their life, and make sure that the freedoms that they are allowed and the permission that they are given to roam your house and to do things in your home aren't things that you're going to want to take away later. I mean, don't let them have free reign of all 2,400 square feet if later you think that they could get into trouble in that space. Teach them, walk with them, lead them in the right paths. Doesn't that sound like the Shema that we've been talking about? As you walk, as you sit, as you lie. In other words, keep them with you, because you can't do these things if you haven't done that. Proverbs chapter 10, verses 4 and 5. He who gathers, back one verse. Lazy hands make a man poor, but diligent hands bring wealth. He who gathers crops in summer is a wise son, but he who sleeps during harvest is a disgraceful son. Now this is talking about a son who doesn't want to get any work done, obviously, so he's asleep instead of out working. But I think this can apply to us as parents too. Personally, a lot of the reasons that I don't feel like training my very young children, I'd rather wait till they're older and more mobile and they can talk, is because it's easier for me. I don't have to do as much work. I don't have to get up as much. I don't have to move around as much. But it says here, he who gathers crops in the summer is a wise son, and he who parents their children when they are young, and it is more work and you have to move more, you're wise. But if you're laying back at that time and allowing your children to get older and waiting till then, you think it will be easier. You won't have to do as much work, but actually you're going to have a lot more work to do. All right, one more verse in Proverbs 13:24. And it says, he who spares the rod hates his son, but this is the rest of this is the key. He who loves him is careful to discipline him. Careful to discipline him. I guess what I'm trying to say is to be very intentional from a very young age, starting out on the right path, aiming them in the right direction, and not giving them freedoms and permissions to have attitudes and words and actions and to be able to have freedoms that you will later take away from them because they are wrong. Always discipline them. Be careful. And I think in discipline here, it means to be molding their path, to be aiming them in the right direction. And as a sheep, taking their little rod and nope, nudge them here, nudge them there. Let's get back on the path, okay? So I hope this helps. I'm going to go back to one more verse in Isaiah 28, 9 and 10. And this is what Jehovah says about Ephraim, or about the northern 10 tribes. And notice the love that he has for them as a father. It is due, I'm going to switch to the King James, New King James. Whom will he teach knowledge, and whom will he make to understand the message? Those just weaned from milk? Those just drawn from the breast? For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little. See how young, small little things that you can teach them. I'm going to get more specific. We're going to talk about exactly how do you do this, but I want to lay these foundations first, that early is better than later, and that training them in the right direction first, teaching them what they may or may not do from the beginning is so much easier than having to go back and correct when they are middle age or teen or heaven forbid 17, 18 years old. Sometimes that can even be impossible without the divine intervention of the Holy Spirit. So start when they're really little, when they are tender and the only one in your sight. All right, we'll go back into this more and what to do if you didn't do that. All right, we'll see you back another day.